chorus to We're All Gonna Die, one of the new singles released by musical polymath Brandon Lowry, aka Sterling Fox, who now performs under the moniker Baby FuzZ. If Sterling Fox sounds familiar to you, that's because he's been in the industry for a long time now, and has worked with some of the industry's top talents like Madonna, Avicii, and Adam Levine, to name a few. However, in 2018, Fox decided that it was time to put out his own music, without the limitations of the pop machine, and started putting out tracks under his new moniker, Baby FuzZ. As diverse as his music is, the lyrics are a singular and hyper-self-aware narrative with strong political and social undertones. In 2019, Baby FuzZ released his debut album, Plastic Paradise, independently, and embarked on a DIY US tour. And amidst all of this COVID pandemonium, Baby FuzZ has been working hard on the debut's follow-up, Welcome to the Future, which fans can expect to drop in late 2020 or early 2021. So far, we've had a taste of 4 singles, which are all very different from one another, showing off his wide versatility in music sensibilities. Brandon and I dive into the new music. He tells me about the challenges of being completely independent and how difficult it can be to finish an album when you're a perfectionist. We also talk about his love for video games and movies, as well as the story behind the cool mask he wears in his music video for Acid Night. Here's my chat with Baby FuzZ. Seeing as this podcast kind of was born during the pandemic, how has your pandemic been?
Up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, it started off like kind of, I was ambivalent because I was in the process of recording an album and I was just starting. So I was planning on complete isolation anyways.
Oh, so it kind of worked out.
Worked out initially. And, I was like, this will be fine. This is what I was going to be up to anyways.
Okay.
But yeah, really the lack of being able to like socialize at all wears on you after a while.
Right, for sure.
I mean, I was in LA for the beginning of it. So that would have been like February through June. And then through the summer, I was like a few different places, San Francisco, currently in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been all right. I'm surviving. Some of my family members actually caught COVID. So that was that was really frightening. Luckily, they're all right.
But, that's good.
Hospital stay, and my sister was out of commission for months.
Oh my God.
So it kind of, hit close to home there. But I think it's definitely like informed my creative process a lot, the pandemic. And it's kind of like we're all living through it. And so it's kind of in the music now as well.
Right on. Aside from working on your new album, what have you been doing to keep busy?
I play a lot of video games. That's kind of like my outlet. I'm a gamer, just to kind of feel like I'm staying connected to people. I'm not really good at Twitch or streaming concerts. It's not my forte really, but I do game, and it kind of is my day-to-day thing that keeps me grounded. Right
on. What are you playing?
I play like Fortnite or League of Legends, like competitive games. Like I'm really I like the competition aspect of it. So
for sure. I think I saw on your PR release that you're ranked pretty high in League of Legends.
No,
you're not. Oh, okay.
I'm terrible at League of Legends, but I play all the time. I think in my head I'm good. Like in my head I'm like ninja. I'm like doing crazy. But in reality I'm like average at best. Probably.
Right. Are you a PC gamer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Mac. Yeah, but also PS4 at the moment.
Right on.
Yeah, we'll see.
Have you been playing like any of the like new exclusives that came out on PS4? I don't know, like Ghost of Tsushima or anything like that?
No, I get like fixated on 1 or 2 games and that's it. I was playing Red Dead for about a year.
Oh yeah.
And kind of that was taking up a lot of my life, and then kind of got into Fortnite and League.
Right.
League I've been playing for like years, like 5-6 years. But
that's been out for a while, right?
Yeah, it's like 10 years old, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I have to keep myself in check though, because I in my head I'm like, oh, everybody's my age who's playing. I'm playing like but in reality it's like 10-year-olds. So I'm like, I can't be like swearing at the 10-year-olds. It's not a good look.
For sure.
Yeah. So I think a couple times I did, and then I realized that was really not a good look.
Not a good look.
So, yeah, I try to keep it clean now.
Right. Good.
Try not to talk too much trash.
I know that you're a bit of a movie buff. What's the last movie you watched that you loved?
What was the name of it? It was the new Charlie Kaufman movie on Netflix.
Charlie Kaufman movie.
Oh my God, I'm so bad with remembering the names of things. It's based on a book. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. It's called it's quite good. I just can't remember the name of it. Important because it's worth seeing. It's super. I'm thinking of Ending Things.
Oh, I'm thinking of Ending Things. Of course, yeah. I was gonna say, I think that's what it's called. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'm sorry. It's quite good. Yeah, it's based on a book. It's quite good as well. But I think it's in typical Charlie Kaufman fashion. It's like completely messing with your expectations of what a movie is supposed to be.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
It's cool because it's like you think I'm not going to spoiler alert it, but I think, you think it's about one thing or one character you think is the main character and the narrator protagonist. And by the end of the movie, you realize it's somebody completely different.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's actually kind of like, I don't know, a disillusioned man. And I think it's saying a lot about like men in general these days. So I think it's like quite an important movie. It's pretty interesting into like the male psyche of modern times.
Right.
But yeah, definitely check it out if you haven't seen it.
Right on. Yeah, it's definitely like, it's on my list. I added it like this week to my list. So I will be watching it for sure. And then I know you're a vegan now, right?
Yeah, for about 2 years. I was a vegetarian for maybe 7 or 8 before that, but yeah, going full blown vegan. And
what's your favorite vegan dish?
Favorite vegan dish? I'm a sucker for like the junk food. So if I can find like a good coconut milkshake or coconut based ice cream, I usually like that.
Okay.
Or like I'll just go to Burger King and get Impossible Burgers sometimes too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I'll go for junk food.
Right on.
Mostly. Occasionally I'll eat healthy, but not really. Yeah,
for sure.
It's easier now than it used to be. Like they have all kinds of meat substitutes and various forms. So it's pretty, I remember like in college, I would try to, be vegan for a second. And it was always such a challenge because there was just nothing you could eat that tasted good.
Yeah.
And so it's way easier now to kind of alter your diet based on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. The reason I ask is my mom's vegan too. I was telling her, I was like, yeah, I got an interview in a few minutes. And she's like, oh, who's it with? I'm like, you're not going to know them. And I was just like, oh, no, you'll like him. He's a vegan. And she was like, oh my God, find out what his favorite thing is. So there you go. That's for you, Mom.
Yeah, junk food.
Junk food, right on. Before we get into talking about the new album, so you were a session musician at the beginning of your career, as well as producing on some tracks. Who were you like super stoked to work with? Like, holy shit, like I'm actually working with this person, and then this might be a different person. Who was your favorite person to work with?
I was pretty stoked to work with Madonna. That was like kind of a crazy lucky thing. My manager was friends with her A&R for her album at one point. It was like, hey, do a session with Madonna. And I was like, what? So it was just like a friend of a friend knew somebody, and it was like really casual the way it went down. So I ended up getting to work with her for like 3 days in a row, which was really dope, like all day.
Cool.
And just writing with her, and it was a trip. She's an incredible woman.
Yeah.
I'd say my favorite person to work with, and there's been so many through the years.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Take your time.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, I think musically, I just think there was a couple sessions I did like that felt really where like magic was happening in the session, or like things that was like, whoa. And that feeling doesn't happen very often for me because I'm really like grounded and stuff.
Okay.
But I think there's this girl, Elle King, who's like a country pop singer.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of them. She's just really, really pro and really good. And I think we were writing a song and we wrote it in about 20 minutes and it was done. And
yeah.
it was
So
like
the magic was really happening.
Yeah, it made her first album and it was just like an amazing song.
That's wicked.
And it's usually where like the artist is like in the zone, and those are the ones that are great. I think Lana Del Rey was one like that, is it was like she was just in this zone that was like, you know, kind of this art channeling some magic or something. Yeah, it's like those a couple artists like that, I would say.
Right on. So I know that in 2018 you retired your pseudonym Sterling Fox and started the new project Baby FuzZ. Do you remember what like was the catalyst to start this new project?
It was a combination of a lot of stuff, and it was like coming for years. I had been putting out music under Sterling Fox for years too, and also like singing on a lot of electronic music, like a couple of Avicii albums I was singing as Sterling Fox was featuring. So it was like transitioning into trying to be a recording artist had been happening for a long time. And at a certain point, I just felt like I completely needed to start from scratch, like visually and conceptually for what I wanted to put forward. And kind of like changing the name and everything helped with that. And I think it's kind of like more cohesive now, like what I'm trying to do, as opposed to just like singing on EDM songs and then putting out random mini rock songs.
Right.
I still like jump all over the map genre wise, which I think is fun.
Yeah, for sure.
At least from like a visual standpoint, like I have a realm where I can work in now, and like Baby FuzZ kind of sets the tone for that.
Right. How did you come to like this new image?
I'm a fan of like 70s glam rock a lot. You know, I like Queen, I like Sparks, kind of bizarre glam rock and stuff like that. So Baby FuzZ was kind of drawing off some stuff like that. And it's also kind of an homage to like just childlike slacker kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's just like a juxtaposition of a few different ideas.
Right. So the new album, Welcome to the Future, like you said, you've been working on it throughout the pandemic. When is the album going to be dropping? Do you know yet?
Pretty soon. I think like end of December or January.
Cool.
At this point, probably like the first or second week in January.
Are you?
I just put it out myself, so it's always pretty loose. It's like, oh, I'll put it out in a few weeks, and then it's out. There's no like big master plan with people pulling strings and budgets, and you know, it's just me putting out an album. So
you get to call the shots. It's up to you.
When I feel like it, I'll put it out. Yeah. Right now I'm putting out singles that are done already from the album, rolling them out. I have one more song I need to finish before I can set an album date.
Okay.
That I'm kind of struggling to finish here. But as soon as that's done, then I can just drop it. But yeah, it's actually going to be a double album. So like part 1 will be in January, and then there'll be a part 2 that'll be later next year.
Oh, cool.
And then at the end of the day, it'll be like a double album on vinyl with like 20 songs or something.
Wicked. Oh, sweet, man.
Yeah, but the first half will be like 8 or 9 songs.
What are you finding that you're struggling with like this last track?
Well, I do everything myself, you know, more or less. There's a few people that do help me, kind of like producers that will do some programming and stuff. But it's really just me sitting on my computer and trying to finish everything myself. And it's a lot, you know, and I'm just like, I'm writing everything self-producing. And so at a certain point, it's just, I get in ruts and, but yeah, this one, it's almost there, you know, it's just, I need to finish it, and motivation has just been a problem the last few weeks.
Right.
The election is coming up in like a week here, and that's a big distraction for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I know you're very politically involved.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing, but yeah, there's some stuff I'm dealing with out here, like a performance and whatnot. And yeah, just getting a little sidetracked. Finishing it.
Yeah, for sure. That's fair. What is your process like normally for when you're writing music? Is there anything like, does it just kind of like all happen randomly, or do you find that like you start with a melody or lyrics first, or?
Changes from song to song. Sometimes I'll start with a melody or a concept in my head, and I'll be like, I'm going to write a song called Raisins or whatever.
Okay.
And then I'll just do it. Sometimes it'll start with a melody, or sometimes I'll just write something over a beat. I think more and more it's becoming about concepts. Like I'll have just a conceptual idea for a song, and then I'll make that happen.
Okay.
You know, after I have the idea for the concept.
Okay.
but yeah, I've written songs like many different ways. My preference is usually to start with the melody first.
Okay.
And then try to weave words and match them up with the like syllables I want to put in the melody.
Gotcha. So speaking of concepts, what is the overall concept for the upcoming album?
It's not a concept album per se, but like all the songs are kind of tied together thematically. And the kind of overarching theme is about kind of living the idea that the future would be this like amazing place, and here we are in the future in 2020, and it's like kind of messed up.
Right.
So that's kind of the basis for the album, and the themes on the album are like environmentalism is a big theme, kind of just like social awareness, and just like living in a really crazy year. But yeah, it might actually just be like an environmentalist concept album at the end of the day. It's kind of like the vibe it's conveying. There's certain songs that aren't saying anything didactic that are just like a love song.
Right.
And then there's other songs that are like really kind of trying to say something.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think it's probably like an environmentalist album.
Okay.
A little different.
Yeah, for sure. I know that's something that's important to you, and I want to touch on that towards the end of this. What would you say your fans can expect from the album? Like, is it going to be quite different to the last one, or?
Yeah, I'm always switching it up, like even from song to song.
Yeah,
I'll do a folk song, a punk song, and I just like to keep it moving, and because I love listening to all different styles of music. So unlike a lot of recording artists, I'm not just going to box myself into making indie rock or making whatever you make, techno. I don't feel like I need to follow those rules because I don't have a big fan base, so there's really nobody to let down. It's like, it's not like they really care that much. And most of the people that like my music have pretty broad tastes in music anyways.
Right. Yeah.
So I would say they could expect there's a couple slow songs, but on the whole it's a little bit of a louder album than the first one. It's a little more aggressive, and that's just based on like how I'm kind of feeling about the world at large, and it's I guess it's a little more over the top in certain aspects. Less subtle for sure.
Right. Yeah, the tracks like "We're All Gonna Die."
Yeah, that's not a subtle song.
Yeah.
I'm trying to embrace the comedy a little more. I was touring last year all year, and kind of by the end of the tour, the act had gone from like a sad boy act to like a really dark comedy act.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to like encapsulate that a little more with this album, because I do feel like the project, it's a music album, but there's definitely like a comic edge to certain songs. And I'm trying to run with that a little more on this.
Cool.
One.
Yeah, I'm digging it, man. Like that song I'm pretty sure is the first song I heard of yours. And I thought it was so funny and tongue in cheek and just, I don't know, it was so great. I just showed my brother was again asking like, oh, who are you talking to today? Like, and I showed him that song and he was giggling on the floor. He thought it was so great. So you have a new fan there too.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was, that was a fun one. It was definitely a fun one to do.
Yeah. But like you said, I guess just with you releasing everything yourself, you're not having to box yourself in. You don't have any bigwigs saying like, this is what it has to sound like. This is what's going to sell. So that's really cool.
Yeah. It's not really a product. It's just like what I feel, that's like the difference between what I'm doing now and what I was doing, writing for other people, because when you're collaborating with massive artists, at the end of the day, it's a product. And like, there's a lot of people that have a say, and yes, it is like personal songs and whatnot. It's still art, but you just have this cloud hanging over it of like, it's for consumers. And this really is like, I do care that people like it, but at the end of the day, I'm just doing it for me.
Right.
It's just a project that I enjoy doing. And if nobody listens, I don't really care.
Right. Yeah.
If they do, that'd be great. I would love that. But if you don't listen, I'm still going to do it. It's just keeping me sane. The project's keeping me sane, basically.
Yeah. It's your creative outlet. You need that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right on. But yeah, it's definitely noticeable that you're kind of like playing with all different types of genres, and like pretty much each song that I've heard so far is very different from the other one. I mean, we're going from like Acid Night, which is like super cinematic and like slow and deep, to again like We're All Gonna Die, which is kind of like a weird juxtaposition of like it's a negative kind of song in terms of content, but then this happy-go-lucky like guitar riff to it.
Yeah, it's like definitely sarcastic.
Yeah, sarcastic.
That's always the challenge. That's always the challenge when putting out the album. It was a challenge in the first one too. Is like, how do I make this all work together?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has to do with just like the track listing. But I think at the end of the day, it usually works. You know, where I can kind of usually make it work, and it feels fairly seamless.
Right.
Even though the tracks are different.
Like it takes you on a journey.
Yeah. Like, and that is the challenge. That's why it takes me a while to actually like make songs and make an album, because I am trying to tie them together somehow. Even if it's just like my vocal or like a lyrical theme, usually there's some kind of thread you can follow through them. But yeah, when you listen to them by themselves without context, it is a little bit herky jerky, but with the album, it's a little more, you're able to follow it a little more.
Right. So you mentioned that it's going to be a double album. It's going to come out on vinyl. Is that something that you think about? Because I know a lot of bands or a lot of artists, I don't want to kind of like throw anyone under the bus, but like they're kind of just jumping on the vinyl train because it's like it's come back, but they're not thinking like a side A, side B sort of situation. Is that something you kind of take seriously and try to think about?
I ran into that issue of my first album because it was the first one I did, and I was like, okay, I'll do vinyl. And then I realized that there was only certain number of minutes fit on each side.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. So I really had to like edit the album down so it would fit on vinyl. I cut like 2 songs off my original album just to get it onto vinyl.
Interesting.
And so that's kind of part of what I'm thinking on this one, is that like I actually have maybe like 16 to 18 songs I want to put out. And it's been kind of slow treading. I only have like maybe 8 of them done.
Okay.
And I want to put something out. So I'm just going to put it out in 2 installations.
Right.
You know, and at the end of the day, I can do a 2 vinyl album with like 2 records inside.
Right. Yeah.
And that should cover all the songs.
Cool.
And part 1 will be on 1 record, part 2 on the next one.
Right. Right. From your new singles, you have one with like an actual music video to it, and it's a beautiful video, man. Like
Thank you.
It's just gorgeous. I just wanted to know how the idea for the video came about.
Yeah, so I have this really bizarre mask. It's like a digital projection mask.
Is that yours? Like, do you have it?
I have it here. Yeah, it's in a box over here on the floor.
Oh, that's wicked. Cool.
It was something I'd been working on for a long time with some collaborators in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. One of the guys works for Oculus, and the other guy is kind of like a DIY punk rock fabricator and digital artist. And we made this, a few of us made this mask, and it was supposed to be like a centerpiece of my live show for this past year.
Okay.
So I was going to be doing more touring this year, which obviously didn't happen because of the pandemic. So I've been looking for a way to use this mask because like spent a lot of time and resources on it. And I decided with my friend Nesto, who's like an LA-based music video director, a really talented guy, to try to do a video like based around this mask. And so that's kind of like the initial pitch. And then he came in with like more of a plot to it. And that's kind of where it ended up. But the plot is like this archaeologist who travels to, I guess, Earth and is searching for clues of like a past civilization that once existed there.
Right.
And that's kind of his interpretation. I look at it like a couple different ways. I kind of look at the video as like a giant metaphor for me trying to make an album. Because I'm like searching for like emotional clues, and then I'm in my lab typing, like inputting the notes,
finding little bones in the sand.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I could use this little nugget in the song.
Right.
So I look at the video that way, but I don't think that's what we intended it to be.
Right.
It's supposed to be like kind of a Blade Runner thing.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And that final shot where you like open up the thing and go into a city and disappear, I was just like, holy crap, this is awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a low budget video. Like we didn't we didn't go crazy on it. We just shot it in a day in the desert, and lucky enough to get a really good DP on it, and just some really good people. There was only like 3 or 4 people that worked on that video. It was a really small little DIY shoot, but yeah, it came out great.
Was it shot during COVID or?
It was shot during COVID, like back in May.
Okay.
And so we had to keep it really small just to try to be responsible. It was me and then 3 other people on set, but it was like kind of a shoot and run kind of deal. We were like driving, and then we would stop in the desert and shoot, when we saw a cool thing.
Right.
So it was kind of like punk rock DIY style, but it came out, we got some visual effects at the end and kind of.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah, it looks awesome. Yeah. It does not look low budget at all.
No, it was a cheap video.
That's cool.
There's another one coming that's insane.
Yeah,
it's coming in like 2 weeks. Yeah, okay. I think it's even better.
Cool.
It's an old west, a Wild West music video.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I only did 2 videos for this album here, and this second one is the one that's my favorite.
Cool.
It's done. We just finished. I just got the final cut this morning.
Sweet.
It's done. So it's coming really soon. I'm really excited about that one. That's a video for my song Before Our Time, which is out already.
Yeah. The one with that's the one of LP, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually met LP. She I used to work at a recording studio in Toronto, and she came by to do like a small intimate show, kind of just to like shop her album around. And then it was also, we mainly worked in like post sound for commercials. Yeah. So she was just trying to add people to want to use her music in commercials. But she is such an amazing performer. Like her voice, I cried in the room, like full of people. I was just like, oh my god, I can't, like, what is happening right now?
Yeah, she's got amazing control for her range. Where
and
she
her
can
whistles?
Hit these high notes. Without like screaming, belting, she can hit these high notes. So she's got a really nice control over her kind of her fake chest voice, I guess. Yeah. She's got this like in-between tone between her head and her chest voice. Yeah. Technical singer shit. But yeah, she's really quite talented.
Did you know each other before the song, or?
We had kind of, I knew she's been in the music industry for a really long time. Yeah. She was signed to a couple different deals. She was signed to Warner Brothers, and her experience with the music industry, the first few times she was signed was really bad. Like they never put her songs out. She would just get shelved on these labels. And so I had been hearing about her for a while from different friends at different labels, but I didn't actually work with her until she was out of that ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And then, we wrote a song that was supposed to be for her album, her last album. And then it didn't make it on the album. But it was just kind of a demo that I revisited, and I was like singing on the demo. Mm-hmm. So I was like, this is dope. So I kind of added some more lyrics to it and fleshed it out a bit more. And then, it turned into what it is. And like, we wrote it together, initially. Mm-hmm. So, she was cool with putting it out. And I'm like, hey, would you mind if you're like a co-artist on it or a featured artist? And she was super down for that. And that really helped me out because she has a lot of fans. So it was like really nice of her, a good gesture to do that. And we wrote the song together. So it's kind of like a joint effort there.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I was going to ask about that because I couldn't hear that like LP voice in the song. Right.
Yeah. So she's like on the chants after the chorus. Yeah. And originally she was singing on one of the verses, and I was going to keep it on, but it wasn't a great take. It didn't sound that great. And I couldn't link back up with her because of the pandemic to recut any of the vocals really. And so I just put it out, as is, because it just felt like fine. But yeah, her vocals are kind of like sprinkled in there. They're just like not super prominent.
Right.
But she was a collaborator on the songwriting, so that's something.
Yeah, for sure.
She's a really good writer too. So I think that, a lot of times songwriters don't really get credited on songs, and it's your names are never on them. So I feel like even just for songwriting, it was like, why not put their name on as well? That's Absolutely. Kind of like an artist as well.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that was like really like such an awesome song. And again, like you're going from Acid Night, which is cinematic sounding, and Before Our Time, I'd kind of say is like arena rockish.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, arena rock, glam rock kind of.
And then I want to talk about We're All Gonna Die, which we already touched on. definitely more of a punky vibe to it. And I learned that you, growing up in Pennsylvania, you were kind of like pretty in the punk scene over there. There was like a small punk scene in the town you grew up in.
Yeah, that was kind of like my first intro to going to concerts and seeing live music. There was a punk scene there. We would get a lot of touring bands come through, like pop punk bands.
Do you remember the first band you saw?
Phew. I mean, I was going to concerts, like Christian rock concerts too, a lot.
Okay.
When I was growing up. Well, I grew up in like a religious family, and so I wasn't really allowed to. There wasn't a lot of music going on. It was in the middle of nowhere, but was into Christian rock for years.
Okay.
I will admit, and some of we would get some bands that would come through our little scene though. The White Stripes played there to like 10 people before they were anything.
That's awesome.
I mean, yeah, like a lot of pop punk from New Jersey and New York would come through. But yeah, I think that it's the scene kind of was like cultivating local acts as well. So there would be local acts, and the town was really small, but there was 20 bands in the town, and they were all decent.
Wow.
And they kind of all fed into this ecosystem that developed people as musicians, and it really helped me. That was kind of like my first intro to it. Years later, I went off and left and went to college and ran with it. But that kind of like started the passion for connecting with people with live music. Right. Kind of like the punk scene.
Is this were the first like few bands you were playing in, were those punk bands as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The one was like a hardcore punk band. The other one was like an oi street punk band. Cool. So I was playing like guitar in those, and then was playing like some math rock bands in college, or like kind of post punk maybe. Okay. As a keyboard player. Nothing really notable, just like a lot of kind of garage jammy type stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I was definitely in tons of bands growing up.
That's sweet.
More than 10 probably.
More than 10. That's cool, man. Yeah, it really sounds like you've done so much. Like you've touched on so many different genres, right? Like even like just with this project now, but like you saying that before, and then also working with a lot of pop artists. It's very versatile.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to different stuff, and I appreciate it. So as long as I can make it decently and not completely butcher it, I'll give it a shot. Right. Done like country and rap and all kinds of stuff before.
Right. What song from the new album are you looking forward the most to perform in front of an audience?
It's tricky because they're all really difficult to do live. I've tried to kind of start to work out the arrangements for live, at least for my solo set, and they're all super tricky because they're like pitch shifted and there's a lot of like production fuckery on the recordings.
Yeah.
So I think the one that I'm excited about would be Before Our Time. I think it just feels like it could be cool with a live band.
Yeah.
And this like big anthemic thing. But yeah, there's, as far as like playing, I have like a solo set and a live band set. And for the solo set, it's like a different vibe. It's just me and a keyboard. It's kind of like Elton John or Liberace or something. And kind of for that, in that world, like, there's a song called I'm Trying My Frickin' Best, which isn't out yet.
Okay.
That's pretty cool in that setup. But yeah, that's the one I'm trying to finish right now. Production for. But it's like a ornate kind of Liberace piano thing crossed with Elliott Smith.
Oh wow, cool.
Yeah, it's really bizarre juxtaposition.
Which do you prefer doing, playing solo or with a band?
I definitely prefer with a band. I mean, it's just funner and there's more of like a support in case you mess up, but it's just impossible sometimes. Last year it was like I did like South by with a band and certain bigger shows, played a show in Toronto with a band. But at a certain point, when there's 10 or 20 people that come to your show, you can't really justify taking a band out on the road at all your shows. So I did some shows with a band, and then the rest of the shows I would just drive around and do them solo.
Okay.
And that works too, but it's just like a different vibe.
Yeah, for sure. Totally. Cool. I wanted to get into a little bit of political stuff.
Sure.
Just because I just saw your post about the hashtag I Voted festival. So I know you're very anti-Trump, which I feel like most of the world is.
Hey, if you're not, that's fine. That's fair, but that's your opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I'm allowed to express mine.
Absolutely, man.
Right.
That stress is definitely coming across the border too. So
he's also just a complete sociopath, so it's not good. I mean, most politicians are like ego people, but sociopathic behavior is a bit different. That's just like dead giveaways. Like every time he opens his mouth, it's like, oh, sociopath.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well let's talk about the festival. Hashtag I Voted Festival. Can you tell me what it's about? And
sure. It's a really large festival. It's supposed to be the biggest online music festival ever at this point, is what they're billing it as. But it's just a way they target artists that are based in swing states in the US.
Okay.
You perform streaming performance, and if a fan or a person wants to tune in and watch, all they have to do is show that they voted, like take a selfie in a voting booth or have their voter ID or whatever, a bunch of different ways. But then you can tune in, and the concert gets rebroadcast for 24 hours after it's broadcast on November 3rd.
Okay.
And if you're overseas, if you're in Canada or a different country, you can just tune in as well without having all that. But it basically is just a music festival to try to get the vote out for a lot of the fans of music artists that live in swing states.
Right.
So there's a lot of bands from Florida and Texas and Pennsylvania and places like that.
Gotcha.
And just encouraging their fans and a lot of young people to try to get more involved politically in the process.
Right. Yeah.
And not just sit on the sidelines.
Yeah. Have you always been politically involved, or is this more just since Trump came into power? Because I know you came to Montreal when he came into power, right? So
yeah, it's always important to know what's going on and have an opinion and speak out when something's not right. I mean, Iraq War, back in the day, I was marching around on the street back then. There's stuff you got to speak out about. So I've always been, outspoken about political stuff if I feel strongly about it.
Right.
And that goes not just against Republicans. The last election cycle for me, it was really problematic that the Democratic Party didn't have an environmental platform on their party or a healthcare platform. And now they do. So certain things have improved even from a Democratic platform. I used to kind of be a Green Party type voter or independent, depending on the candidate.
Right.
But yeah, it's just I've always been kind of outspoken about stuff, and I think it's important to be engaged.
Absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, with Trump in 2016, I had to just, for my mental health, I had to get out of the United States for a little bit. It's just getting too much. And then being in Canada a year kind of helped me reset a little bit, recalibrate, what's, just my whole psyche.
Right.
And then came back and I, felt refreshed, okay, I have more of a purpose here. And it's I'll, try to do positive stuff to affect change, the change that I want to see instead of just complaining about it.
Right.
That was kind of, the conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally. I know you're also very passionate about the environment, and I know you're involved in a lot of causes. Could you name a few that you're involved in?
Yeah, so for We're All Gonna Die, that song, all the proceeds from that song are going to Doctors Without Borders. I guess that's not an environment thing, but I mean, that's kind of a nonprofit I've supported through the pandemic here. I think they're doing a lot of good work overseas.
Absolutely, yeah.
In different countries that are kind of overlooked in this whole thing. As far as environmentalism, I kind of tend toward, Greenpeace is cool. I mean, but PETA is actually pretty cool these days. I know they get a bad rap for kind of doing a lot of outrageous stunts and being really crazy sometimes, but they actually do a lot of good work. So I like PETA. A lot of animal rescue organizations, kind of animal tilting things. I like. Part of the veganism is a component of my environmental views in a way.
Right.
Because I personally feel that our relationship with the planet and with animals are kind of interconnected. And the way that we treat them is kind of as a commodity, without kind of having any sense of idea that we're killing living things and keeping them in cages and by billions, literally billions of them.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
maybe you're cool with that. It's fine. But like, I think that it's a little messed up.
Definitely.
Yeah. And I think it's important to think about like where you eat comes from.
Hmm.
And if you want to go deeper with it, like COVID came from somewhere, came from an animal,
Hmm.
and it most likely came from an animal that we were using as a food source, in a way that was probably not the most like nice way to do it. It was
Yeah.
probably in a cage, sitting in a cage in a market in China somewhere, and there's COVID. So
Yeah.
I think, and that's almost every pandemic has come from like animals. So I think that
Hmm.
it's important to like look at that component of the pandemic and be like, okay, what can we do differently here? And try to, I'm not saying like the world should go vegan overnight, but
Hmm.
I think there's like things we could do differently that might be better
Yeah, for
in that
sure.
regard.
Something that I've like really tried to, or that's really resonated with me recently is, I do really enjoy meat. I enjoy the taste of it. But for the last year, I've been really paying attention where I get my meat, where it comes from.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get it in my head that like, look, if I'm okay with eating meat, I should be okay with having to actually do the whole, do the deed of like going and hunting and doing that and just like being sustainable.
My sister is like an avid elk hunter. Her and her husband hunt, and they'll eat their catch through the whole winter.
Exactly.
And I mean, people that do that, I respect more almost, because you at least you know where your food is coming from, and there's kind of a mutual respect that that's a wild animal, and
Hmm.
they have it. At least they have a chance. They're not born and spend their entire life in
Exactly.
confinement in a factory farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of the thing that gets me. And then the kind of the idea of like livestock and farming is actually the biggest contributor to like lack of water resources and land resources.
Yep.
So all the trees you're chopping down in Brazil and other places, most of that land is being used for livestock,
Hmm.
and then that affects the water as well. So I think it's like a really really large component of what's wrong with kind of like our current climate. It
Yeah.
has a big role. I mean, aside from like oil and pollution, um, kind of the way we're treating animals has a really large role in that, more than people think.
Absolutely. Have you watched that new David Attenborough documentary?
Not yet, no. The
You should watch it.
one,
You should watch it
yeah,
for sure. It's
yeah,
it was definitely like the first, I would say, three-quarters of it. I'm like, we're fucked. Like this, like we're all gonna die. That's literally like how I was feeling about it. But he definitely leaves it with hope and just again, just talking about things that the everyday person can do to like work towards a better future. So there is like it kind of ends with like there's hope in sight as long as we're
yeah.
all educating ourselves and trying to like do our bit. So I would
Yeah,
recommend
no,
that for
I'm
sure.
optimistic 100%. I'm not a pessimist. I'm just
Hmm.
a realist.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing like in reality what's happening here. But no, I'm an optimist for sure. Like I think that humans are really, we're really selfish, right? At the end of the day, we want to preserve ourselves because
Hmm.
that's our whole thing. It's like, let's multiply and take over. We're a crazy
Yeah.
virus.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we keep that in mind, the idea of self-preservation is really important to humans as well. So if we see that we're threatening ourselves via the planet, we're going to
Hmm.
preserve ourselves, hence preserve the planet. So I think we'll figure it out. But
Hmm.
it is important to like start to think about like, okay, let's get the ball rolling here.
Absolutely.
It's getting crazy. The temperatures are going up. We got to start doing some things here. Um, and electric cars are cool, but there's more to the equation than just that.
Yeah, absolutely. Something I didn't necessarily realize was I want to say it's Costa Rica, could be Nicaragua, but it was a country in Central America that very rich in natural resources and rainforest. I think it went down to like 15% of the country had rainforest left over. So
Yeah.
they just mandated all these things and they're just like, look, we got to work together to fix it. And now it's gone back up to like 75%. So it is possible. And
Oh
this is
yeah.
just like over a course of 20 years or something.
Yeah, it's totally possible to reforest areas. I mean, we've
Hmm.
been doing it in the United States for a while in certain places, national parks and different places.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it is possible. I mean, the animals won't come back necessarily, but there's
Yeah.
certain it'll come back differently. The ecosystems will come back differently than the way they were, which is fine. I mean, that's it's the way it works, once you kind of do that. But I think I think what's going to happen eventually is we have these like areas of wilderness where like a lot of wild animals will live, and we need to keep those separately from what humans are doing development wise, and have more of a, you can't just own the entire surface of the planet and develop it. It's just too much.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Conservation, man. All right, so my last couple of questions here. I know you've been writing a lot during this, so do you generally like still listen to music while you're writing stuff?
Yeah, I go in and out of phases. I'll go through a phase where I'm like listening to a lot, and then I'll have a phase where I'm kind of just in my own thing, not listening to a lot of music. There's certain acts I try to follow and be aware of, like what they're putting out.
Okay.
But yeah, I do listen to newer music for sure.
Okay. Who have you been listening to the most you found during the pandemic? Could be classic, could be new.
For newer stuff, Lemon Twigs I like a lot. I've been into them for a couple albums now.
Cool.
I'm just like a big fan of what they do. A new artist I kind of found out about was this person, Dorian Electra. I'm a really big fan of them. It's kind of like a queer drag act / like hyper pop musician / personality.
Oh, wicked.
I don't know how to describe it really, but it's really good.
I like the sound of it.
Yeah, I think like Gex, kind of like in that world.
Okay, cool.
Which is another one that's kind of, I listen to a bit. Just trying to keep up with these crazy kids and what they listen to a little bit.
It's I remember the first time hearing Gex and just being like, "What in the hell is this?" And it was like pretty much my same reaction to dubstep when I heard it the first time, where I was like, "No." But then I've like listened to it quite a bit since then, which is when I know it's good music. When same thing with a movie, I can like really not think I don't enjoy a movie, but if I'm still thinking about that movie a week later and I haven't stopped thinking about it, I'm like, it was a good movie. Damn it, it was a good movie.
And I get it. Like, I kind of remember the first iteration of that sonically because I'm old. Right. Like, where there was kind of this like electro emo shit going on for a while back in like the 2000s. And yeah, as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, it's back.
Yeah, it's back.
It's back. I remember this.
How do you generally go about finding new music?
Word of mouth. Somebody I know will tell me about something, or Spotify will suggest something to me. Mm-hmm. I think they do a pretty good job with their algorithms of like, they'll suggest stuff for you in their playlists. And they're usually pretty good for me. I found a lot of new artists I like through that.
Cool.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll go to shows a lot, but not these days. Not really.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of how this is a question I've been asking everyone too, and a lot of artists say word of mouth, Spotify. Spotify is like everyone says Spotify, or Apple Music, I guess, depending on what you use. And then a lot of the time too, it's just whoever you're touring with. If it's just someone you don't know, or someone that's like the local act, that's how people find stuff too.
A lot of times it'll be people I collaborate with, for a music video or whatever, other people that they work with as an extension, and I'll be like, oh, I'll check them out, and kind of leads me back to their music as well.
Who do you remember who like the last new artist that you found? I think you already actually said it.
Declan McKenna. I was kind of newer. I wasn't aware of Declan McKenna before like a few weeks ago somehow, but really like his stuff. And this year it's been him or Kieran Callahan. That was another one. Dorian Electra, which I mentioned. And then last year was like Ezra Furman, King Princess, some artists of that ilk. I was really into Phoebe Bridgers I still am, but that Punisher album was like a really influential songwriting wise for me. I like that a lot. Mitski. Yeah, I have pretty diverse tastes. I try to keep up with stuff. It's just hard sometimes, but for my age, I'm generally hip to the new stuff.
I guess. Saying my age. You're like 4 years older than me, so I'm like, fuck. Does that mean I'm old too now?
Well, yeah. For trying to be like an up and coming recording artist.
Right. I see what you're saying. Okay, last question. This might be a difficult one, but just knowing that you listen to classical music, you grew up being classically trained on the piano. Is there like one symphony that you think is like perfect?
Perfect symphony. Perfect symphony. I'm not into symphonies, to be honest. I mean, there's a perfect part to one of them, and then the other parts kind of feel like filler to me. I'm sure there are, I feel like within the Beethoven catalog, there's some really good ones. I'm more into, I guess, like smaller pieces, like whether that's concerto or sonata or kind of just like more of a short form piece I'm more into, because they feel like a little bit more personal to me. A lot of the classical music is so sprawling, and it was commissioned by like nobles or churches or whatever, that a lot of it kind of feels like filler. But when I kind of go to classical music that I've liked through the years, it's usually like shorter form. Like a Clair de Lune or a Beethoven piano sonata or something like that. I'm also really into opera as well. But again, it's usually like certain acts from an opera as opposed to like
right thing. Yeah, I think I heard somewhere that Phantom of the Opera was something you grew up listening to a lot, which I found very funny because that's something I listened to with my mom a lot growing up too in the car.
Yeah. I'm into musical theater a lot too, for sure. I kind of started in musical theater and then got into recording after that. But I originally was kind of on the path to being like working on Broadway as like a music guy on Broadway and stuff.
All right, Brennan, that is all the questions I had for you. Is there something you want to like do a shout out to, or something you just want to say to the world?
I would just say thanks for having me. Thanks for tuning in. And just if you feel like getting in touch with me, just shoot me an email or a DM. I'm really accessible. I'm not like, I'll usually respond to everybody unless you're weird or creepy. Yeah, just hit me up. I'm just like a normal person here trying to make music and put it out into the world. So it's always nice when I get people that actually will respond and be like, I love the song. I hate this song, whatever. I like that. It's like
awesome, man. Cool. Well, Bren, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. Really looking forward to seeing that music video and then hearing the album, man, when it comes out.
Thanks so much. Stay tuned.
Cheers, man. Have a good one.
Bye.